was in a class that we were in where part of the assignment was to pick some uplifting songs and that would make us happy. And several of the ones that you chose this morning, I picked for my little playlist.
Did you really?
And I was listening to it just a couple of days ago.
Oh,
and I
wow.
thought, wow, I wonder if Karen does this stuff. And then I forgot to call, but apparently the message got through. So that's just absolutely incredible. Okay. So our October theme, Carol, our October theme is global transformation through individual transformation, because that's the way it has to happen. We can't change the whole world. We can only do it with ourselves, for ourselves, through our thoughts. So the title of this week's message is Created to be Happy. And it comes from a quote by our founder, Ernest Holmes. He said, "We all know, as though something inside were forever telling us that we were created not only to live and work, but also to be happy, purposeful, and enthusiastic." Happy, purposeful, and enthusiastic. So I think I'm going to try that enthusiasm thing, see if it works for me. So we were created to be happy. So how's it working? Are we all exactly as happy as we want to be? Yeah. Let's move toward that. Move toward that. The Online Dictionary says about happiness, happiness is to be delighted, to be pleased, glad, joyful. And what I know is that when we are happy, our lives are characterized by gratitude, gratitude all around, by inner peace. Gratitude are characterized by us being gentle with ourselves and others, by having an optimistic outlook on life, even when things get rough, and by being satisfied with our lives. When we're happy, it's like, whoa, this is good. I like this, let's keep doing it. And when we're happy, we're much more likely to forgive ourselves and others. Have you noticed that? Much easier to forgive when our lives are feeling full of joy and happiness. In his book, You Can Be Happy No Matter What, Richard Carlson, PhD, explains it this way. When we feel better, we have more access to our own wisdom and common sense. We tend to be less reactive, defensive, and critical. We make better decisions, and we communicate more effectively. And of course, all the studies show that happy people are physically healthier. And I think we all want that physical health and vibrancy in our day. When Ernest Holmes said we were created to be happy, I don't think he was talking about superficial happiness. I don't think he was talking about the kind of happiness that comes from getting a new car or a new outfit. Because, you know, we all know that eventually it fades. The car needs an oil change. It doesn't have that new car smell anymore. The outfit, you know, maybe we get tired of it. Maybe it goes out of style. If it's a favorite, maybe it wears out. And sometimes maybe it gets too small. So we're not going after that superficial happiness. What we want is that happiness that comes from deep within. That kind of joy that sustains us even in the rough times. Because I'm sure there's no one here that has never had rough times. I mean, it's part of the human condition. You know, there are just those times. But if we have that inner happiness, that inner joy, that sustains us and helps us even then. But from the TV and the media and the movies and the magazines, many of us in our culture have come to believe that everything has to be just right in order for me to be happy. If I have the right possessions, I can be happy. if I have the right friends, the right mate, the right job. If everything goes my way and my candidate wins, then I'll be happy. If I lose 10 pounds, then I'll be happy. But you know, we don't have to have everything flowing, because that happiness supports us wherever we are. So we don't always have to have everything that's going right, because if we decide in advance to be happy, if we set our intention to be joyful and to be open, things around us tend to shift. Now, I don't know if I've ever told you the story about when I almost got taken to jail. But it was in the 1970s. I had long hair. It was all very dark brown, not this color. And I was married at the time to a man named Brian, and Brian and our daughters and I lived in a small town that was about 7 miles from a small city, Galesburg, Illinois. And so we often would ride our bicycles back and forth into Galesburg. And one morning, Brian decided he was going to ride his bike to work, and so he did, but then he realized that he was going to need the truck. I said, no problem. Put my bike in the back, I'll drive the truck in, ride home. Great ride. It was a beautiful morning. It was springtime. And that morning, I had an incredible meditation. I was working with a book called The Handbook to Higher Consciousness by Ken Keyes Jr., which is an amazing book that impacted my life. It was the first book that really taught me that I could set my intention to be happy, that I could choose to be happy no matter what happened. So that's the way I started out the day. So I got in the old 47 Ford pickup truck, drove into town, and just as I was reaching the place where Brian worked, flashing lights behind me. So I pulled into the parking lot, and the officer came up looking very stern and said, okay, I need your driver's license and your registration. And I handed him the registration and then explained that, you know, I was just going to drive in and then ride my bike back, and I don't have my driver's license with me. And he said, and do you know that the sticker on your license plate expired yesterday? Oh, really? Huh. Gee, I didn't know that. Isn't it a beautiful day, you know? And so he said, all right, here's the law. I have to go check it out in the car, but if you don't have a current registration and if you don't have a driver's license, I can take you to jail. So he goes back to his squad car and does whatever he's doing. And of course, I'd given him my name so he could check up on me. And I'm looking around and it's like springtime. Beautiful. The flower, I mean, there's a field right next to the parking lot that has these wildflowers. They're just incredible. Beautiful. And so I'm just, you know, I'm blissed out. The guy comes back and says, okay, I have to take you to jail. And so as I'm noticing the beautiful blue sky, it's like, okay, wow. You know, I've never been to jail before. This could be interesting. So by now he's kind of looking at me funny, and he said, "Now I don't really want to do this. I don't want to do it, but I have to do it." So and I'm saying, don't worry about it. This is your job. If you need to take me to jail, take me to jail. Don't worry and stress about it. So he takes a big breath and finally says, lady, I can just not take you to jail. You are too happy.
That is wonderful.
And that's the kind of thing that can happen when we decide in advance to be happy. Deciding in advance to be happy does make a difference. Now, it's not going to make all challenges go away, but I am convinced that if I had not made that intention that morning, if I had not gone into that situation with my heart and my eyes open to the beauty, I would have ended up in jail. So, you know, we can choose. So what blocks our happiness? It's not the conditions in our life. It's not whether or not somebody says you're going to be taken to jail. It's not our family. It's not that we didn't get the kind of education we really wanted. It's not that we don't have the body shape that we would love, or that we feel that we have somehow been victimized and taken advantage of by life. It's not any of that. That's not what our happiness is based on. In our teaching, we know that it's our thoughts, our intentions, the stories we make up, the judgments that we make. These are the things that affect our happiness. Absolutely. In an article in last month's Science of Mind magazine, Ellen Castro has this to say and a question to ask. Imagine that there were limiting beliefs and judgments keeping you from soaring higher, keeping you from being lighter and living a joy-filled life. What would they be? And so I ask, what might your limiting judgments and beliefs be? What might be holding you back from knowing that you can go into each day with joy and happiness? For some, it could be the belief that, you know, intelligent people are just not happy while all of this is going on in the world. Some people believe that, you know, if we really care, we're going to be upset. Some people believe that somehow it shows that we're intelligent and caring if we're upset. Maybe a friend is having a hard time. Now, certainly we can care about them and we can be empathetic, but it doesn't mean that we have to make ourselves miserable in order to support that other person. We can do it from a place of love and from an open-hearted place. Or sometimes there's the belief that we have to be unhappy now to be happy later. We have to really, really work and struggle in order to be happy later. And that is not true. Studies show that happy people are much more effective at meeting their goals, at having good relationships, and at getting what they want in life. So think for a minute. If you could do, be, or have anything that would bring more of that deep joy and happiness into your life, what would it be? Think about that for a moment. And now I invite you to imagine that you already have or are that thing that will bring happiness into your life. What does it feel like? What does it feel like in your mind? What are your thoughts? What does it feel like in your body? How would you relate to others from this place of doing, being, or having this thing that will bring you great, great joy? Now, a question. Would you be willing to have those same feelings? Because I'm kind of assuming that when you got into that place, you had some great feelings, like, oh, this feels good. Would you be willing to have those wonderful feelings if you got them some other way? Now, here's what I'm getting at. Spirit's resources are unlimited. If we know what we want, if we know what feeling we want, how we want to be open to other people, we don't have to tell God exactly how it has to happen. No, we can, And we can insist. I mean, I have known people who have made a list of the characteristics they wanted in a partner. Okay, he has to be this tall. He has to have straight teeth. He has to have this kind of a degree. And I remember one client in particular, a practitioner client who told me that I could share this, that then ran into a guy who had crooked teeth and no degree and was an absolute light in her life. Opened up her heart, allowed her to experience things that she had never experienced before. And so if we have the intention to have these joyful, happy feelings, Spirit can give them to us in some amazing, amazing ways. It's often a good idea to say our affirmations. Of course, we teach affirmations here, positive statements that are spoken as if what we want is already ours. And it's a good idea to add this or something better.
Yeah.
Because something better often comes along. When I was in ministerial school, I had I had the affirmation and I had the dream of becoming a Mile High Church staff minister, which would have mostly been a desk job. Now, I always put on the end of that affirmation, this or something better. And I got something better. Yeah. I got this community. I got all of you. And it meant turning down that job at Mile High, but something better that I didn't even know was a possibility because I was limited. So what can we do to experience the happiness that we were created for? Now, first of all, we have to allow ourselves to be who we are. We can't model our lives after somebody else. I mean, certainly we have mentors and we have heroes and we have people that we look up to and learn from. But basically, we have to accept who we are and be willing to show up as Spirit living into and as us in our unique and individual way. And here's a question. Actually, I have a couple of questions about this. Do you want to be happy or do you want to be right?
Happy.
Happy.
Yeah.
There are times in my life when I wanted to be right.
No.
Now, it was before I really looked into this question, because what I know is that when I ask myself that question, every time I come out with, I want to be happy. You know, I don't care if somebody just made a statement that's not true. I don't care if this person from the other political party says something that I don't agree with. I want to be happy. And so that can make a difference. To be happy, we might want to question our thoughts. Now, have you seen the bumper sticker that says, "Don't believe everything you think"? That can be really good advice. Because just because we think something doesn't mean it's true, and it doesn't mean it's going to bring us what we want in life. So don't believe everything you think. Question your thoughts. I don't know how many of you are familiar with Byron Katie, who does Loving What Is work. It's powerful work that takes us, if we're dealing with some kind of challenge, some kind of relationship issue, some kind of prosperity issue, any kind of issue, and says, okay, let's look at your thoughts and your beliefs about that. First of all, if you have made an assumption that somebody said something to hurt you, is that true? Do you absolutely know that that's true? And often we don't absolutely know that our thoughts are true. She then asks the question, how do you feel? How do you react when you think that thought that's giving you discomfort? How do you react? What do you say? What do you say to yourself? What do you say to others? And then she asks an amazing question. Who would I be without that thought? Who would I be without the thought that whoever just said something to me said it to her? Who would I be without that thought? She goes on to do some other things, but those just stand out for me. And one of the most powerful things we can do to experience happiness is we can choose to stay in the present moment. We can choose to not be controlled by the dead past or the imagined future. By being present, we can respond instead of reacting. By being present, we can see, just as I did in that experience, I could see the beautiful wildflowers around me. We can also have more clarity when we're in the present moment, not bothered by what's happened, not bothered by what might happen. We can make decisions, we can make choices, we can choose thoughts that serve our highest and best. What that allows us to do is it allows us to not get stuck in going over things that have happened to us, where we have felt as if we were a victim. By staying in the present moment, we can choose not to dwell on those things because they certainly have an effect on our lives. So in the present moment, we can act and respond with clarity. We can connect with the wisdom that is always available to us. Whether we're going through challenges or exciting, wonderful times in our life. In the present moment, we can remember that we were created to be happy and that we have some choice about that. Choice about what we're going to do. And in the present moment, we can absolutely choose joy and happiness. I'm going to close with some words from our founder, Dr. Ernest Holmes. God's language is yea and amen. We are here for the delight of whatever it was that created us. What else could it be for? All this theory that we're here to be tested to see if we're worthy to endear is just so much nonsense, he says. Life is made to live. A song is made to sing. A dance is made to dance. We can be glad. We can be happy. And so as practitioners stand with me in high consciousness, I invite you to move with me into prayer. Here we are in the midst of that divine essence that has created us to be happy. Here we are in the midst of that divine essence that supports us whether we're going through challenges or wondrous times. Here we are in the midst of the divine, the creative process. And here it is in us, as us, through us. So I know that this is something that we can always call on. This is something that we can always access. All of the information, all of the advice, all that we need is available to us, either directly from that wisdom or from that wisdom leading us to some other source. But God has chosen to express in, through, and as each of us. That means that we have the same nature, the same access to wonder, the same ability to create our lives in joy, in happiness, or whatever else we choose. And so what I claim is that as we go forth this week, we remember that we get to choose joy. We remember that whatever is happening in our lives, that we can choose to enter it with an open heart. That we can choose to forgive, that we can choose to honor ourselves, that we can choose to be happy. So I'm so grateful that the part of God that we call the law has provided everything that is needed for anything we want to call forth in our lives. All of the support, all of the resources, all of the love. And so knowing that even as I've spoken these words, they are being acted upon by the law, I can simply release this and let it go. Letting God do what God does so well, which is create for us what we call forth. I know that it is good. I know that it is done. And if you want to accept this along with me, I invite you to say, and so it is.
All my life's a circle, sunrise and sundown. Day turns into nighttime, and the morning comes back around. Yes, indeed. All my life's a circle, I can't tell you why. Seasons spinning round again, years go drifting by.